ಶಿವ ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ಎರಡು ಶ್ವಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದರು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೆಲಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕನ್ನಡ ರಾಜ್ಯೋತ್ಸವದ ಶುಭಾಶಯಗಳು. ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. ಕೊಡುವುದನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಬಿಡುವುದನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು, ಕೊಡುವುದನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಬಿಡುವುದನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೈಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿ ಓಡಿ ಹೋದನು. ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. ಆಕಾಶ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಟ್ಟನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಪಾತಾಳ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟನು. ಆಕಾಶ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಟ್ಟನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಪಾತಾಳ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟನು. ನಡುವೆ ಈ ಭೂಮಿಯನ್ನು ದೋಣಿಯಂತೆ ತೇಲಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಶಿವ ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು. ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕನ್ನಡ ರಾಜ್ಯೋತ್ಸವದ ಶುಭಾಶಯಗಳು. ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ.
ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. ಕೊಡುವುದನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಬಿಡುವುದನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು, ಕೊಡುವುದನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಬಿಡುವುದನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೈಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಓಡಿ ಹೋದನು. ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. ಆಕಾಶ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಟ್ಟನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಪಾತಾಳ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟನೋ. ಆಕಾಶ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಟ್ಟನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಪಾತಾಳ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟನೋ. ನಡುವೆ ಈ ಭೂಮಿಯನ್ನು ದೋಣಿಯಂತೆ ತೇಲಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಶಿವ ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. ಹೆಣ್ಣಿಗೊಂದು ಅಂದ ಕೊಟ್ಟನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಗಂಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಆಸೆ ಇಟ್ಟನೋ. ಹೆಣ್ಣಿಗೊಂದು ಅಂದ ಕೊಟ್ಟನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಗಂಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಆಸೆ ಇಟ್ಟನೋ. ಹೆಣ್ಣು ಗಂಡು ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡು ಯುದ್ಧವನ್ನು ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಶಿವ ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. ನಲ್ಲಿಕಾಯಿ ಮರದಲ್ಲಿಟ್ಟನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕುಂಬಳಕಾಯಿ ಬಳ್ಳಿಲಿಟ್ಟನೋ. ನೆಲ್ಲಿಕಾಯಿ ಮರದಲ್ಲಿಟ್ಟನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕುಂಬಳಕಾಯಿ ಬಳ್ಳಿಲಿಟ್ಟನೋ ಹೂವು ಹಣ್ಣು ಕಾಯಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಜಗಳವಾಡು ಬುದ್ಧಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಶಿವ ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನೋ. ಕತ್ತಲಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯಾಯವಿಟ್ಟನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳ ಕಟ್ಟಿಬಿಟ್ಟನೋ ಕತ್ತಲಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯಾಯವಿಟ್ಟನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳ ಕಟ್ಟಿಬಿಟ್ಟನೋ ನ್ಯಾಯ ನೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ತಲೆಯ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಕೊಳ್ಳೆಂದು ಹೇಳಿ ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಶಿವ ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನೋ.
Kannada rājyōtsavada śubhāśayagalu. Warm greetings on the occasion of the Karnātaka or Kannada rājyōtsava, last day. The whole of the month of November is celebrated in Karnataka as the Rājyōtsava, which coincides, of course, on November 1st with the birth of many other states in India on a linguistic basis, thanks to the enormous efforts of the Iron Man of India, the first Home Minister, the one who should have actually become the Prime Minister of India, but unfortunate incidents prevented that, namely Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And this has been a wonderful state of mine, Karnataka, where both sides, paternally and maternally, we have lived here for 4 generations. So we proudly call this our home state. Though I prefer to talk, especially for this video, in Kannada, I also want to reach out to many of our friends in the audience who are not familiar with Kannada, and therefore I thought it would be more appropriate to use a language they understand, but convey the message of Karnataka and message of Kannada in the true spirit of the Rājyōtsava. And as many of you already know, we had celebrated this with the nāda-gīté last November, and Katham.in in its video channel, YouTube video channel of Katham India, had presented our nāda-gīté in multiple voices, and very different from each other, as different as probably chalk, cheese and chocolate. Of course, the voice which I call as chalk voice is mine, and the chocolate was probably Dr. Ratan Kelkar, and the cheese were you have Vishwas Mahesh, Ram Mohan, and my mother was Srimati Vasanta Kumari Sampath, and of course the cute little kid who makes a comeback today. He is the only one other than Siddhappaji who is repeated in today's celebration of 2021 Rājyōtsava. And this time we are doing it in a different way. Instead of singing the nāda-gīté, which we already did last time, and it's still available on YouTube for anybody to watch anytime, we thought we'll offer something else. And since a very unfortunate loss of one of its superstars in the Kannada movie industry happened for Karnataka just before Rājyōtsava Day, that's November 1st, prior to that. So therefore, we thought we will present a hit of punīt rājkumār, though he has many wonderful hits over his career of about 30 odd films. One of his very first films as a child artist, and he won even the national award for a child actor. I'm not sure if it's for this particular movie, but chalisuva mōdagalu, but he nonetheless won the National Child Artist Award. And in that, he has very endearingly sung kānadanté māyavādanu, a song which we thought this little kid, the son of Professor Vishwas Mahesh of Tumakuru, in his voice we would like to hear, but as is with the case of very small kids, he could offer us only a few lines here and there, but that itself was too pleasing. And as always, we have the scientist from ADE, Siddhapaji. Thank you. He so enthusiastically gave it to me on October 31st itself. I had to hold on to see if others contribute as well. And within a week or so, Professor Ram Mohan, one of my former PhD students, contributed his version of the song as well. And so we have these three voices for you today. But prior to that, I would like to give you kind of a advaitic interpretation of this song, because it's really beautiful, and many Kannadigas themselves are not aware of this beauty that the lyrics have embedded into them. It's a fun song, it's jolly good to sing, it has a great tune, etc. But in addition, and even the literal meaning is wonderful, but and the way it's been enacted by Punīt and his actual biological father, who acts as a hero in that film, Dr. Rājkumār, the chemistry between them obviously is really fantastic. So if you have not watched that, I would urge you to watch that. But coming to the advaitic interpretation, Shiva, as you know, refers to our own nature when we are operating from our Sahasrara chakra, which is right here at the fontanelle in the gross body, but actual thing is mapping it to the subtle body of the mind and the intellect, where this same point in that conformal mapping is the Sahasrara chakra. And when we operate from that, we call ourselves a Shiva. But most of the time we are not operating from there, at least a vast majority of the people. We are operating from the lower chakras, and including the Thala Lokas. And when we are doing that, we take on various forms. But not to forget that we are always Shiva. Just that we are taking on various roles as we come down the ladder in order to perform our day-to-day activities. Nothing wrong with that. Just getting identified with this and not going back to who you truly are, and forgetting who you truly are. That's the problem into which many of us fall, and that's the reason why a lot of issues arise. So what we are saying is that for a self-realized person, the Shiva has gone back to the Sahasrara, and the body, mind and intellect continue to operate from one of the lower chakras or the Tala chakras, the 14 dimensions of our existence. Other than the Sahasrara, there are 13. And these dimensions, when we operate from, what we think is that the Shiva has vanished. kānadanté māyavādanu, namma Shiva kailasa serikondanu. We say, what does it actually mean? It means that we cannot see. Yes, we cannot use these what we call as the physical eyes, the sense organs, for that matter, any of the sense organs, to perceive that reality. We need to look at it from an inner vision, which is the third eye, metaphorically speaking. But that's the essence of who we are, right at the top, at the Sahasrara chakra. So then obviously when we are operating even from the Agnya chakra, leave alone from any of the lower chakras or the Patala at the feet. So when we are operating from any of these, our body, mind and intellect say, kānadanté māyavādanu. That means we cannot see you anymore, you've disappeared. But it's not he who has disappeared, it's ourself which has disappeared. We have forgotten to operate as ourself, and we are operating as a body, mind, intellect, identifying with it and thinking that I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. And that's what is making us see that the self or Atma or Brahman has disappeared. And we say, namma Shiva kailasa serikondanu. That means our nothingness has reached Kailasha. Kailasha is nothing but Sahasrara. It's not it's, though on earth it is physically a mountain, unfortunately in China now, but which we have access to during the pilgrimage season once a year, and many people go for that. But that is just to inspire, motivate, or make us so keen on and thirsty for encountering the real Kailasha, which is our operation from the Sahasrara. So, Namma Shiva Kailasa Serikandunu means that just ourself, that is our nothingness, our Atma, that is who we really are, has vanished and it has reached Kailasa Serikondanu. And then we say, ಕೊಡುವುದನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಬಿಡುವುದನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೈಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಓಡಿ ಹೋದನು ಕೊಡುವುದನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಬಿಡುವುದನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೈಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಓಡಿ ಹೋದನು. What does it mean? The body, mind and intellect feel that whatever is necessary to be given to us, our self has given. We as Atma have provided to our body all that we need, the sense organs, the organs of action, the mind with its enormous memory, imagination, and then the intellect with its sharpness to dissect and find out anything and everything about most of the materialistic aspects at least. So then, it's not somebody, some God who has koduvadannu kottu biduvadannu bittu. It's our body and mind and intellect which are saying whatever is necessary for our body, mind and intellect to function, our self has given, and it has left a part of itself. Our self is infinite, remember. It's left a part of itself at various one of these chakras for our body to enjoy, for our mind to enjoy, for our intellect to enjoy, intellectual pleasure as we call it. And what happened? ಕೊಡುವುದನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಬಿಡುವುದನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೈಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಓಡಿ ಹೋದನು. Many people think ಕೈಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಓಡಿ ಹೋದನು means he has cheated us. Our self has cheated us and left to its abode, the Sahasrara or Kailasa. But it's not actually ಕೈಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಓಡಿ ಹೋದನು has two meanings. If you take the figurative meaning, it means that it's given hand and gone away, which essentially means that you think that he's tricked us and left. But the reality is that it's not a trick, it's not fooling, it's actually kaiya kottu odi hodunu. For once, we don't take a figurative, metaphoric meaning of this, we take the literal meaning. Kaiya kottu odi hodunu means he has given us hands and left. So that we can do things on our own. The body can do its own things, and with the control of the mind and the control of the intellect, it can do wonderful things. It's amazing set of tools, far better than any of the tools. And in fact, all the tools that we engineer as engineers or human beings as scientists, all of that is actually based on what the hands can do, trying to do it a little better. What any of the other organs can do, eyes can do, a telescope or a microscope stretches that limit. Eyes can see only small things up to a point. To see even smaller things, we need a microscope. The eyes can see only so far away. To see even farther, make a telescope. But the inspiration is still the eyes. Inspiration is still the hands. If I can lift something heavy, I make a crane so that it can lift even heavier things. But unless and until I had been able to lift something with my hands, I would not have been had as a scientist or as a discoverer or as an inventor or as an engineer to develop a crane. The very inspiration comes from the fact that we can do certain things. Can we do it a little better? Can we do it faster? Can we do it in a more inexpensive way? These are the things that we develop using our intellect. So, kaiya kottu hodi hodanu actually means that we have this wonderful. I'm just checking if the recording is still going on. I don't want to lose out on what I'm saying. So kaiya kottu odi hodanu actually means that we have received from ourself, from our Atma, this great wonderful tool. And then of course kānadanté māyavādanu Namma Shiva Kailasa Serikondanu. Akasha mele ittanu. So the space element, you see, is the Vishuddhi chakra. Out of the 5 elements that make up the entire universe, all the material things that exist within it, the earth element is at the Mooladhara, the water element at the Swadhisthana, the fire element at the Manipura, the air element at the Anahata, and the space element at the Vishuddhi. So what we call as solid, liquid, energy, gas, and the space-time canvas on which this wonderful painting of creation that we tend to do as ourself every moment and recreate it every other moment, right? So the beyond this, of course, in the Agnya, we are beyond the elements. So here it's the last and the most subtle of the elements. So it's our self which creates this perception. The perception is what creates space, and space is what, space or space-time for that matter, is what creates air and other gases, and air and other gases are what create fire and other forms of energy. Fire and other forms of energy are what create out of themselves water and other forms of liquid. Water and other forms of liquid are what create earth and other forms of solids. So this is the Panchabhuta, or five elements, and keeping it clean, Panchabhuta Shuddhi is very important, and for that we need to do Panchabhuta Kriyas, certain actions, and Panchabhuta Aradhana, or offerings of devotion to these, to recognize their significance and not only take care of them properly but utilize them efficiently and effectively. So in that he says, Akasha mele hittanu, Namma Shiva patala kelage bittanu. So the bottom of the feet is what we call as patala. Sorry, this is not to humiliate anybody, but just that it's clean. So what we are saying is that this is the lowest of the 14 dimensions, while Sahasrara is the highest of the 14 dimensions. And what he is saying is that Namma Shiva patala kelege bittanu. That means this patala, lowest of the 14 dimensions that we have, is kept at the bottom, while Akasha is kept right at the top. So below these five elements are our imaginary, illusory elements, where our mind goes into all kinds of hallucinations and psychiatric issues, psychological issues, etc. So those are all at the bottom. So is kept things at the right place. That's what is very important. Misplacing, misidentification are the reasons why most of the problems exist. If you try to go to the root of any problem that you take up, whether it is a scientific problem, an engineering problem, or a family problem, or it is a, let's say, a psychological problem, or a health issue physically, or intellectual low performances, all of these, or career issues, professional issues, social issues, national issues, every one of them can be traced to wrong identifications and misplacing things. But here our self has kept Akasha at the top, Akasha mele hittanu, and we say he's kept the patala, or the lowest dimension, at the bottom, which is complete ignorance, complete absence of any understanding of what reality is, totally out of touch with reality and living in our own ivory towers. That's what we call as patala. So we say Namma Shiva patala kelage bittanu, Akasha mele ittanu, Namma Shiva patala kelage bittanu, Naduve ee bhoomiyannu doniyante teli bittu, kānadanté Shiva kānadanté māyavādanu, Namma Shiva kailasa serikondanu. So between Akasha at the top and Patala at the bottom at my feet, I'm not showing it again and again, but between these two is the earth element. That's why you say Naduve ee bhumi. See, there are 7 chakras above and 7 chakras below. Of course, there are 8 if you take both the Matru-Pitru and the Guru Gayatri chakra, but somewhere in between, almost at the center, is the Muladhara chakra, where my cutie pie Ganesha is what we are. We are Ganesha when we operate from the Muladhara, which is the interface between the Talalokas, the lower dimensions of illusion, and the upper dimensions of Devas and rishis and seers and gods and goddesses, which is what our own reality is as we improve our cleanliness of the eyes to see the reality and eventually see through the third eye that we are Shiva, we are one with nothingness as well as everythingness, and that's the ultimate truth. But this Muladhara is representing the Bhumi, the earth element, the solid element. And so, Naduve ee Bhumiyannu dhoniyante telibittu. So, it's not just given the earth, but it's given as a dhoni. And Dhoni, of course, was our former cricket captain. And calm and cool, just like the real boat, which can transport us wherever we want, and that transportation is what is represented by this lovely boat that you see over here, in which Ganesha is cradled, and this is the earth element. So naduve ee bhumiyannu dhoniyanta telibittu. So this is a boat which doesn't float horizontally but floats vertically through the middle of our spinal cord in the Sushumna Nadi. If we don't care for it, it sinks down, and our identification eventually goes to the patala at the feet and total ignorance. But if we do sadhana properly, we are self-disciplined out of love and joy rather than, oh, why all this discipline? No. Because it's awesome to be disciplined, not because you're going to get something out of it, but the very act of being disciplined is wonderful. So when you do that, our identification slowly moves up, and so this is a dhoni, this is a boat which traverses vertically rather than horizontally. And this is what we say by naduve ee bhumiyannu dhoniyanta telibittu kānadanté Shiva kānadanté māyavādanu namma Shiva kailasa serikondanu. So that's essentially what it is. ಹೆಣ್ಣಿಗೆಂದು ಅಂದ ಕೊಟ್ಟನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಗಂಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಆಸೆ ಇಟ್ಟನೋ. ಹೆಣ್ಣಿಗೆಂದು ಅಂದ ಕೊಟ್ಟನೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಗಂಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಆಸೆ ಇಟ್ಟನೋ. So in this stanza, the poet and little Punīt Rājkumār are conveying a wonderful truth to us. If we take it in the literal sense, we think that for women he gave beauty, and the same instant, the same day, Shiva, the god, gave desire to the men for the women. But this is far deeper than that. It's a spiritual practice, and hennigendu anda kottano means the beauty, the creative aspect, the aspect which makes us artistic, makes us a great painter or a great singer or a great poet or great literary artist or great movie maker. All of these are associated with the left half of our body, which is said to be feminine, the Ida or the Chandranadi in our subtle sense. And these are our creative nature, and every one of us is endowed with it. How much we develop it and how much we utilize it, of course, varies from person to person depending upon their identities. But the right side is the masculine side of us, it's the Pingala side, and this is where the desire is. That's what, here there is a beauty, Anda, and here there is a desire or ase, because this is the logical aspect and it has to be motivated, our intellect has to be motivated by something, otherwise it will not work. And that is the ase, that is the desire, and that is the rational aspect of us, the sharp, razor-like aspect of us, and this right side of us, of science and technology, etc., is associated with the right side, the Surya Nadi, which is the Pingala, but it crosses over at the Ajna Chakra and goes to the left brain. So the left brain and the right half of the body is essentially your what you call as the logical and rational, intellectual, scientific, technological areas which are driven by desire, ambition, etc. And this happened simultaneously on the same day, same instant, as we got that emotional nature of us, that feminine nature of us, that creative nature of us, that artistic nature of us, that beauty of ours. So once beauty is there from the right brain to the left half of the body, and the desire is there from the left half of the brain to the right half of the body, then we say that Shiva has disappeared. So that is, our self has disappeared because we no longer identify with the self. We start identifying with the body, we start identifying with the mind, our emotions, and intellect, our thoughts, and therefore we are getting into all kinds of problems. So to avoid that, we have to integrate that. And that's why he goes on to say, ಹೆಣ್ಣು ಗಂಡು ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡು ಯುದ್ಧವನ್ನು ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಶಿವ ಕಾಣದಂತೆ ಮಾಯವಾದನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. So what happened? Once the Ida and Pingala are not balanced, once our left nostril and right nostril breathing are not balanced properly, then we have issues. We are giving either too much prominence to our physicality, our beauty, our emotional nature, and our creative nature, and ignoring our intellectual nature, our rational nature, our logical nature, our scientific, technological nature. Then what happens is we as an individual suffer. So this is an internal conflict. When there's an internal conflict in a nation, the people suffer, right? Similarly, all the cells in our body, trillions of them, and the organs that they make up, the tissues, the first, and the organs, and the systems that they make up, all of them go for a toss, whether it's the physical systems, emotional systems, or the intellectual systems. So in order to have a right balance, we have to balance our left nostril, right nostril breathing through pranayama, anuloma viloma, and we also have to balance between our creative beauty and our intellectual desire. So once these are balanced, then it's okay. Otherwise, there's a conflict, and that conflict is what we talk about as ಹೆಣ್ಣು ಗಂಡು ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡು ಯುದ್ಧವನ್ನು ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡನು. Means then we are no longer identified with our true nature of Atman, Brahman, Shiva, our nothingness, and therefore all the issues arise. Once he's done with that, the next stanza, he talks about ನೆಲ್ಲಿಕಾಯಿ ಮರದಲ್ಲಿಟ್ಟನು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿವ ಕುಂಬಳಕಾಯಿ ಬಲ್ಲಿಲಿಟ್ಟನು. So ನೆಲ್ಲಿಕಾಯಿ is the gooseberry. We talked about it very recently for the wedding of the gooseberry as the masculine aspect of us, with the tulsi as the feminine aspect of us in Tulsi Kalyanam or Tulsi Maduve, Tulsi Vivaha, or Tulsi Vivaha as we call it in Hindi and North India. All of this is to bring together a conjoinment between our creative beauty and our logical, rational desire. And once these two come together, it's amazing. So here he talks about what our Shiva did, what that means, our self, our nothingness, our what we truly are, that is Atman, Brahman. What we did, we have put the Nellikai, the gooseberry, on a tree. Even though gooseberry is so small, right? Of course, you get these hybrid varieties these days. The gooseberries are looking like oranges or apples. But we're talking about the real gooseberry and the original non-hybrid versions. And those are small. The weight is very less, and still they are put on a very strong tree. On the other hand, the most auspicious of vegetables, which gives us the highest level of prana, tejas, and ojas, namely the ash gourd or pumpkin, kumblikai as we call it in Kannada, or pusnika we call it in Tamil. This particular vegetable, which of course when it ripens almost like a fruit, and we make even desserts out of it, sweet desserts out of it, is the one which can transform our vata elements from their doshas all the way up to eventually the prana, the life energy, the vital forces. And on the other hand, it transforms our fire, the digestive fires, etc., which might have issues. It transforms that pitta into tejas, fiery ambition, and then it transforms the earth and the water elements, which are essentially kapha, whatever doshas they might have, it transforms into ojas. That's the greatness of this wonderful ash god. And it's so big and it's so heavy, and that has been put on a creeper. Namma Shiva kumblikai ballilittanu. Balli means or valli we say in Tamil, is essentially a creeper. And this creeper is so weak, flexible, and on that you have a huge pumpkin hanging, and you have the small nelikai or the gooseberry amla on a tree. What is the issue? Why this confusion? Well, our self knows where to keep things, because there are certain very, very deep reasons beyond the intellect that you have to explore in order to see this paradox, this irony of why this is happening. And if and only if we keep things at the right place, then we have right identities, and then no problems exist. Once we have put things in the wrong place, we get all these misidentification, thinking I am the body, then all the issues of the body come up. People think I'm the mind, I'm the emotions, then all the emotional, psychological, psychiatric issues come up. People think that I am the intellect, then all the intellectual issues arise. So you see, identifying ourselves with objects, emotions, and thoughts are the worst thing that we can do, because it's essentially a misplacement. And that would have been exactly the case. And there are really very interesting stories of how a person who made fun of this fact that small things are kept on trees and big things are kept on creepers. He was walking under a tree, and the gooseberry fell on his head, and he was like, oh my god, thank goodness, if the pumpkin was on it, it would have fallen, and it could have done physical damage to me. Luckily it's on a creeper, it can't fall on my head. So jokes apart, things need to be in their right places, and our identities have to be in the right place. We have to identify with ourselves, and body, mind, and intellect are our tools. Once we do that, it's wonderful. So Nellikai Maradalittanu, Namma Shiva Kumblikai Ballilittanu, Hoovu Hannu Kayi Kottu, Jagala Aado Buddhi Kottu, kānadanté Shiva kānadanté māyavādanu, Namma Shiva kailasa serikondanu. So once the conflict arises between body, mind, intellect, between our beauty and our desire, etc., then we are no longer identified with the self, and we don't see ourselves as self, and then it appears that our self has given up and gone, but it has given hands and gone, which means that we can work up toward the spiritual ladder to who we really are. So Hoovu Hannu means flowers and fruits. Kai Kottu, Kai is the vegetables. So the horticulture essentially, floriculture, horticulture is fruits, the flowers, the vegetables, all this been given to us on a platter. By who? By ourselves. But then the intellect and the mind are kinds of things which always want to fight with each other. Jagala Aado Buddhi Kottu. That means Jagala is fight. Aado Buddhi Kottu means essentially giving us a fighting spirit, which could be positively used, of course, but here we are using the fighting spirit to create conflicts and issues for us as an individual, for the society, social issues, for the nation as national issues, and for the earth as global issues, be it global warming, the ozone layer hole, or whatever it is. All these are essentially issues that we're creating because of misplacements, misidentities. And that's essentially what it's all about. Shiva kānadanté māyavādanu. So let's bring back Shiva, open our third eye. We're creating a vacuum inside and absorbing all the truth into us through the metaphorical third eye, which is essentially our ability to see things as they are and become mystics. And so with this, once again, I wish you very, very happy Rājyōtsavā day. And this in particular is this particular year 2021's Rājyōtsavā is very, very special for me, because two of the cities in which I have stayed for the maximum period, other than Chennai, are Bengaluru, and Atlanta. I call these as ABC. A for Atlanta, where I stayed for more than 4 years. B for Bengaluru, where I've stayed for 41 years. And C for Chennai, where I've stayed for 4 years. And of course, I've stayed in 46 other countries for a few days, which might all add up to a couple of years or more. But Bengaluru and Atlanta, the A and the B, have come together because the governor of Georgia, whose state in US, of which Atlanta is the capital, declared officially by decree that the Kannada Rājyōtsava Day will be celebrated in a great way, in a formal way, officially, in the state of Georgia in general and Atlanta in particular. So glad to see two of my resident states, Karnataka and Georgia, coming together. And congrats to many of my longtime friends in Atlanta for making this dream of ours, which we started working on long time back. This has happened finally. And so congratulations to all of you. Enjoy this union, this yoga, which happens on smaller levels between states, but eventually it's the oneness of everythingness that we ought to realize. So, kānadanté, māyavādanu Shiva, let's bring him back and recognize who we are Shiva. And with this, once again, a very, very happy Rājyōtsava Day.